a huge, sprawling city like Jakarta, it can be pretty difficult working out where the best places are to get a meal or a drink. But there's a new app available here called Somato, which is a big help. Users post reviews of restaurants which are then moderated back at head office. The person responsible for managing all that content from Indonesia is Agareza, a 27-year-old who was educated in New Zealand, first at high school and then at university. Agareza, thank you very much for talking to us. You studied geology and graduated from Auckland University in 2009 with a BSc in geology. How did you end up working for a food discovery tech startup?
Basically, when I live in New Zealand, I'm in love with the nature, and also the reason why I took geology, because I love geography and chemistry. I love traveling. I love being adventurous. So that's the reason why I took geology. But also, on the other hand, I also have passion in the media world, communications, content creation, and all. So that's why I ended up here in Somato, a food discovery platform that is growing really fast in recent years. And you can't get away from food. I love food. Everybody loves food. Who doesn't love food?
You first went to New Zealand as a 14-year-old to school in Hamilton at Hillcrest High School. Who made the decision for you to go to New Zealand? Was it you or your parents?
So it was me. So I talked to my parents. I told them that I wanted to go to overseas. And my brother he went to London, and my parents thought that it was a bit too far from home. So I chose New Zealand. I don't want to be in Australia because there are too many Indonesians there. Because I want to learn the language, I want to pick up the culture, and I've read a lot about New Zealand culture, the Maori culture and all. So I'm really interested. I was really interested in the culture as well. So that's the reason number one I picked New Zealand. And I also have a snake phobia, and New Zealand doesn't have snakes. So that's also the reason why I picked New Zealand. So the environment is very friendly. It's not really chaotic. It's not really hectic. The people are, it's just right. Yeah.
New Zealand's also well known for its volcanic activity,
Yes.
its earthquakes.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect your study of geology? Did that make it a particularly interesting place to study geology?
Yeah. So I didn't finish high school in Hillcrest High School because I skipped my final year in high school, right? So I went straight to Waikato University in Hamilton, and then I moved up to Auckland University in Auckland. So I get to travel a lot. When I was in New Zealand, I got to visit like Taupo, like Mount Ruapehu, and all the sites, the geology sites there. So it helped me a lot to learn more about geology in practice, not just in the theory, but also in practice. So, and New Zealand has it all. They have good beaches and great mountains, volcanic mountains and all.
Was there anything else particularly unique in New Zealand's approach to education, perhaps the attitude of your teachers that stood out for you?
So in New Zealand, I realized that it gives you so much freedom to choose what you wanted to do, what you wanted to be, and there's an equal chance that you sort of you can make a living out of any fields. Whereas in here, I came from an old-fashioned family, where my parents thought that in order to make a living that you have to be a scientist or you have to become an engineer. Whereas in New Zealand, it opened my eyes. You could do anything you want, you could focus on anything you want, and then you can make a living out of it.
You almost became a scientist, but instead you came back to Indonesia.
Yeah.
You worked at MTV, you were a VJ there for a while, also a radio broadcaster, and now head of content at Somato. That's a pretty eclectic background for someone just 27.
Yeah, back in Auckland, I used to work also as a radio announcer in Auckland. And when I came back here, I just want to continue it because I love to talk, I love to interact with people. Well, as much as I love to interact with oil and gas and gold and rocks, but talking to people, getting to know other people, digging deep to their experiences and life stories, always interests me. It's one of my biggest interests to interact with people. So that's why I jump off to like to be a radio announcer, to become an MTV VJ here in Indonesia.
What does your job as head of content at Somato involve?
Basically, if you open up our application, it is also available on the iOS and Android as well, and or in the desktop version. So whatever you see on the website, the restaurant details and everything. So that's what content is all about in Somato. So we make sure that the information, the restaurant information in the website, it is up to date, it is reliable, and it's valid. Because like we have a team that I manage a team that they go out on the field and they collect the data themselves. So it is pretty much valid data.
Indonesians, and especially young Indonesians, are known in this region for being very tech savvy, and the number of internet users here is just growing at such a rapid rate. Is it exciting being part of this industry here?
Yeah, it is really exciting because the internet penetration is growing rapidly, and people have smartphones in their hands like almost 24/7 here especially in Jakarta, and there are so many apps that will help you out, and Somato is definitely one of them, and so it is really exciting to be part of the growth in Indonesia by this startup.
Finally, if anyone comes to you and asks your advice on whether they should go and study in New Zealand, what would you say to them?
Yes, go for it, because New Zealand is one of the best places to get, study. Life experience is really great, and then you can do so many things, including, for those people who are adrenaline junkies like me, you can do, like, I did skydiving, bungee jumping, blackwater raftings in New Zealand. So just go for it. You'll get everything in New Zealand.
Arga, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you. You're most welcome.